In the early hours of a cold winter night, a 15-year-old hacker named Kraka sat in his bedroom, surrounded by a haze of smoke, fueled by a deep anger and frustration at the state of the world. On his screen, a name flashed: James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence. To most, Clapper was untouchable, but not to Kraka. Clapper was a man who once lied under oath to Congress about government surveillance, claiming that the U.S. wasn't spying on its own citizens. But Kraka and his crew, known as Crackers with Attitude, weren't buying it. With a few keystrokes, Kraka breached Clapper's personal email. He found the director's private phone number, address, everything he needed. He wasn't just hacking for fun, he was sending a message. These high-ranking officials, he thought, need to feel the same fear that they make the rest of us feel every day. But as Kraka and his fellow hackers would soon find out, targeting the most powerful people in the world comes with a price, and this price would change the course of their lives forever. This is the story of the hackers who dared to expose the truth, and the devastating consequences they faced for it. In the early 2000s, the rise of surveillance technology was unstoppable. The US government expanded its reach into the digital lives of its citizens and the world. But one man, working as a contractor for the NSA, would eventually expose it all. His name was Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden wasn't an ordinary government worker. He had access to the most sensitive information about the US government's surveillance operations. And what he discovered shocked him. Edward Snowden wasn't an ordinary government worker. He had access to the most sensitive information about the US government's surveillance operations. And what he discovered shocked him. Snowden faced a tough choice. He could stay quiet, keep his job, and live a comfortable life. Or he could blow the whistle and risk everything: his career, his freedom, and even his family's safety. He chose the latter. For months, Snowden quietly collected evidence of what the NSA was doing. He downloaded the classified documents that would change everything. But Snowden couldn't just tell anyone about this. He couldn't call a lawyer, a judge, or even a member of Congress. He knew that revealing these secrets would be a felony, one so serious that it could put him in prison for the rest of his life. He needed time to figure out his next move. Snowden told his employer, the US government, that he needed a couple of weeks off to manage his epilepsy. This gave him just enough time to flee the country without raising suspicion. Snowden chose Hong Kong as his escape. He believed it was one of the few places in the world that could protect him from the wrath of the US government. It was a place where free speech was still respected, where he could blow the whistle without fear of immediate retaliation. In Hong Kong, Snowden met with journalists Laura Poitras and Glenn Greenwald. He handed them the documents he'd collected, which revealed the full extent of the NSA's surveillance programs. It was a game changer. The world was shocked by Snowden's revelations. He had exposed a vast secret surveillance system that had been collecting the personal data of millions of people worldwide. The debate over privacy and national security erupted in the media. But Snowden wasn't the only one who was angry about surveillance. A teenager in the UK, a 15-year-old hacker named Kraka, had his own reasons for wanting to fight back against the government. Kraka was just like any other teenager, angry, rebellious, and always online. But Kraka had a particular hatred for US foreign policy, especially its involvement in the Middle East. He saw the US as directly responsible for the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza, and he was determined to do something about it. So Kraka formed a hacking group called Crackers with Attitude. His goal was simple: take down the powerful, expose their secrets, and make a statement. His first target? James Clapper, the US Director of National Intelligence. Clapper's phone number and address were easy to find with a quick Google search. With that, Kraka was able to hack into Clapper's email and prove it to the world by posting it online. Kraka then took it a step further. He used Clapper's private information to reroute his phone calls to the Free Palestine movement. Kraka tweeted his respect for the hack. In default, another hacker took notice. Default, a hacker from the US, was quickly impressed by Kraka's work. He respected Kraka's anger, and the two soon began collaborating. It wasn't long before they went after more high-ranking intelligence officials. One of the most infamous moments in the Snowden leaks was when Clapper, under oath, lied to Congress, denying the NSA's surveillance of Americans. This lie infuriated Kraka and Default, and they decided to target another major figure, John Brennan, the director of the CIA. Kraka found Brennan's publicly available phone number, called Verizon's tech support, and pretended to be a technician needing assistance. With a few lies, he gained access to Brennan's personal information, including his email and phone number. Kraka and Default then spam called Brennan's personal phone, relentlessly harassing him and his family. They didn't just stop at pranking the CIA director. They also gained access to sensitive documents from Brennan's email. The documents Kraka leaked were explosive. They included Brennan's 47-page SF-86 security clearance form, revealing personal secrets like his criminal history and past drug abuse. They also exposed internal CIA discussions about torture and other illegal activities. The leak was so damaging that it cost the CIA millions in damages. But what shocked people the most was how easy it had been to break into one of the most secure systems in the world. In fact, Kraka and Default admitted that breaking into Brennan's email was a joke. They found it ridiculously easy, 1 out of 10 for difficulty. They exposed the weakness of the government's systems in a way that no one could ignore. The duo wasn't done. They released more documents, targeting FBI officials and exposing personal data from thousands of government employees. As their attacks escalated, the pressure on the US government grew. Kraka and Default weren't just trying to embarrass government officials. They wanted to send a message to the system, to show them what it felt like to be vulnerable, to be watched. But the hacking spree didn't go unnoticed. One night, Default made a careless mistake, bragging about his involvement in the hacks while drunk on Xbox Live. His friend reported him to the FBI. The FBI raided Default's home. They seized his computer and hard drive, along with nearly 1,000 Bitcoin that he had mined. It was all over for Default. Kraka wasn't far behind. He was arrested in the UK, and his computers were confiscated. His hacking spree ended with him serving 2 years in a juvenile detention center. Default's punishment was severe. He was sent to prison for his role in the hacks, facing years behind bars. But even from his cell, he remained defiant, believing that their actions had exposed an important truth about government surveillance and the vulnerabilities of the powerful. Kraka's time in juvenile detention was similarly isolating. But for both hackers, the damage had been done. The systems they'd breached, the secrets they'd exposed, couldn't be erased. They had shaken the foundation of the intelligence community, leaving an indelible mark on the fight for digital privacy. Snowden's leaks, Kraka, and Default's hacks, the world began to question the very nature of privacy in the digital age. It sparked debates about surveillance, freedom, and the limits of government power. Edward Snowden, now living in exile in Russia, remains one of the most controversial figures of the 21st century. Some see him as a hero, a man who risked everything to reveal the truth. Others view him as a traitor, a criminal who endangered national security. But no matter where you stand on the issue, one thing is clear. Their actions have changed the way we think about privacy and security, and their stories will continue to echo through history. The war for privacy isn't over. It's just beginning. What do you think? Were Snowden, Kraka, and Default justified in their actions? Or did they go too far?